All right, everybody, welcome back to Living, Overcoming, Becoming. I am your host, founder, visionary, Erica Cauclazier. This is the podcast where we believe in healing out loud on purpose. It doesn't change, it has stayed the same. Today, I am actually very, very excited. I was greeted by this woman of God in the oddest of ways, but not really because we both have children. And we were introduced to each other in a very um interesting way where my child bit her child at school and we did a meeting. Since then, they have now been clicked up best friends. They have decided to venture out and do different schools, but we still find time to let our children see each other. So that was a cute meet cute from the beginning. Not only has this woman graced me with such like grace and elegance and just like a sense of chill to where when I found out what her actual profession was, it all made sense. This woman of God is a trained professional. She is a therapist, and I believe it said a trauma counselor as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she
Yeah.
co-founded Essence Wellness Counseling Center. This is no one other than Britni Harris, and I am going to have her introduce herself in a capacity with her credentials as well. Britni, please.
Yeah. Well, first, I agree, Erica. Like that meetup that we had for the first time, I was like, black woman, a black woman, this little black girl can't be hitting on my son. But I tell you, it was such a warm welcome to have met you in that moment and meeting you with all that grace and calm and confidence. It was just like a ray of sunshine and a unicorn at the same time. So I am so grateful to have met you in that moment of biting
Right.
with our kiddos. But I am Britni Harris. I'm a licensed therapist, EMDR trained, and I am the co-founder of Essence Wellness Counseling. My work just really centers around helping people unpack like anxiety, trauma, the patterns that keeps them feeling stuck, especially like in that need of control. And it connects to possibly emotional safety. So that's kind of what I'm passionate on. I'm passionate about helping people understand themselves in like this deeper way, but also integrating faith into a healing process that feels real and not overwhelming, but also understanding that is the center and gives us the opportunity to make our decisions, but he's also guiding our path. So that's who I am.
When I tell you, everything is aligned, everything is set into a pattern, right? And why I say she is so special, she is so important, and I met her at a time where I needed to meet her. She just walked us right into it because not only does she handle the professionalism and the deep understanding of and knowledge of mental health, she integrates faith. Now, y'all have heard me say on this podcast a million times that I believe in seeking help, especially when you don't know. I am a firm advocate in therapy, in counseling. I am telling you guys you need to date your therapist and your counselors. Everybody is not for everybody. And finding not only a therapist who is grounded in faith that can give you both aspects, but this is a black woman, and y'all know how deep I am about supporting black everything. And it's important because not this podcast is for everyone, but people of color can understand what it means and what it feels like to find somebody that looks like you, knows what you're going through, can that you don't have to explain every aspect of our lives. So not only can she speak spiritual, she can speak cultural, and she can speak professional. And I'm like, oh, unicorn. Can we say trifecta? But she actually even walked us into our episode. So we have been walking through the devotional. Um, we have been hitting some crucial points. So up until now, we've been discussing trauma. We have been discussing what it feels like to deal with shame in our walk. We have talked about how abandonment shows up and flee in other areas of our life. So right now we are walking right up to the door of anxiety. It is the fifth day in my devotional. And I wanted this podcast to walk with it so people have a secondary opportunity to come in and listen to the topic in a different way. So today we are talking about anxiety, but we are talking about the aspect of control. And the episode title is Control is Not a Spiritual Gift. Why is it titled this? Because we know that there are certain aspects of anxiety that show up because of the loss, the lack, the inability to control our environments, what happens to us, what is going to happen to us. And I really wanted to get not only somebody that can understand the spiritual part of it, but I really wanted to get you to explain the mental part of it. I really wanted to get into like the understanding that, anxiety is created from different things, but it does not mean that you won't experience it as a follower of Christ. And sometimes, while it can be induced by the enemy, it can be created from the foundation that we created ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brittany, what I want you to do is I want you to introduce what anxiety is and how control plays into that realm.
Yeah, but Eric, if you don't mind, before I kind of introduce what anxiety is, I quickly, like, even as you're speaking, I'm thinking of like what surrender is and control in the same time, right? So surrender isn't about losing control. It's about like literally shifting who you trust to be in control, right? Like, and I think that's whole like the whole aspect of God, like our walk in faith. God's not asking us to surrender or to increase our anxiety by any means. He's literally asking us like surrender to reveal where anxiety already exists and to be healed. Like, when we think about anxiety and the chaos that it possibly brings, it's not just the present moment. It's kind of like how we were raised or where it started within our roots. So I'm sorry, Erica, that wasn't like the first question, but like all of a sudden, like as you were talking, I'm thinking like God already has our lives planned in this situation. And this is where anxiety starts in our childhood, in the chaos of all of it. And when we were in like shifts when we felt like we didn't have any control, but we felt safety in that chaos. And that's what brought anxiety.
Mm, girl, you
So
wow,
that's what I think of like
you
whenever I think of,
ran ahead,
I'm sorry.
but you needed to drop that bomb before you got into it.
I did. It was in my spirit. Like as you were talking, I was like, I need to get this off my chest.
That's why I said you don't even be realizing how much we be on the same page anyway. That's where we going.
Okay. Okay. So I'll
That's
reel it
all.
back. I'll
Nope,
reel it.
go ahead. Keep doing you said. Don't worry. I'm gonna let you cook.
So anxiety is fear of uncertainty more than anything, right? Anxiety is that fear of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? How can I control this? But in all of it, it's kind of trying to hold on to it and trying to plan, but we really can't. And then control is that attempt to eliminate all of it, to eliminate that anxiety. So the more anxious we begin to feel as individuals, it's the way we're just trying to control. And the more we try to control, the more anxious we become. It's kind of like this ruminating loop or circle. It's like, oh, I'm anxious, I'm control. All right, let me just relieve this for a second. And then it literally comes all back over again. And that's what anxiety is. It's just the fear of uncertainty.
And I was gonna say, even like with your description right now.
Mm,
So when I think back on my life, because anxiety started very early for me. And when I say it started early, I mean like fifth grade,
mm-hmm,
fourth grade. And a lot of people say, how do you remember back? And I'm just like, when did I feel like I needed to make sure everything was okay? And when you say like the certain stuff like spews from like our childhood, I started realizing like I was the oldest daughter. So I
mm-hmm,
was always taking care of somebody, something. My parents worked a lot. So I always felt like I wanted to make sure that I was their helper. Like they're
mm-hmm,
already gone, they're already working, like they're already doing. So I felt like I had to make sure everything was good by the time they came home. I had to make
mm-hmm,
sure that my brother was okay. Then my baby sister came, and then it was like I had like that mom loop early. So I had already taken on so many roles to where I was calling it control, but it was like I didn't realize what was happening to where when I started to lose it, I
mm-hmm,
started to feel certain ways.
mm-hmm,
And it's crazy because then as I became older, I tried to change the language. Like I tried to say I was using wisdom or I was using discernment when I came back into the church. And then I was like, oh no, I'm just being responsible. And then I was like, but it was giving me an illusion of peace. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was
Mhm.
like trying to change the language from what anxiety really was to feel safe. It was really like I was given control the illusion of peace, but there was no presence of it. And
Right.
then when I'm kind of walking through life now and then coming back into faith and relationship and having things brought up in a different way, I had to start going back to counseling because I was just like, okay, I need a means of figuring out what is really mine and what isn't. Because then that was like another backpack effect. The things that I started picking up, the things that I started to do, by the time I came weighted back to God, like that surrender word sounded crazy to me. I'm
Yeah.
like, what do you mean? You want me to give up all of this stuff that I have been doing already? Yeah, I feel bad about it. But what do you mean you want me to give you everything? Because I think I've been doing okay. Like,
Mhm.
but did you die was like really my foundational point. But I was like, no, I was still killing myself because
Mhm.
not only is the weight heavy, but then I'm doing God's job on top of it because now there is no surrender. I just want to control everything. Oh, this ain't that big. I can handle this. But then that little thing turned into a big thing. And then the big thing turned into a huge thing. And then we're
Yeah.
wondering why mental health is so, I don't want to say it's ignored, but it's not taken seriously, especially in certain cultures. And I'm like, why?
Well, Erica, that's a big thing. Well, first you said a lot, right? And I think if we start from the bottom part of like why is it mental health like part of like this culture? Like if you know like what happens in home stays in home, right? Like growing up in a black family, don't you talk about what happened at home? And no shade to our family, no shade or disrespect to our parents, but what happens in our church stays in our church. What happens in our home stays in our home. Like we don't talk about that, right? Like we don't talk about if our lights were out yesterday and y'all got to go to school and do your homework. Those are things that we don't talk about. But this is where anxiety is also built. And this is where control is also built. One thing you mentioned too, you said I was kind of like, I had to grow up fast. That's part of like trauma, instability, and abandonment. If you think about it, emotionally and mentally, you're trying to figure out how can I be consistent? How can I become that person that develops the safety in the environment for everyone else? While my intrinsic self is like ramping up. I'm hella like I'm just like I'm excited, I'm anxious, like all these things are happening. And that's when that instability and abandonment comes up. So it's that childhood unpredictability. That's where that control is. That having to grow up fast, that betrayal and abandonment. And again, this is no disrespect to our parents, but this is also learning, right? And
Yeah.
learning in the church and being able to be faithful, but also like saying, this space for me is safe. This space is also chaos. This space is also unpredictable. This is so true in just mental health when I see it so often with clients and when they come and I usually call it to attention when we do some inner child work and we talk about like where do you line up in your family? Are you the first? Are you the middle? Are you the last? When you're the last child, right? You're the last born, sometimes you get that abandonment where it's like, "Oh, I'm not seen." I'm just like, "Come on." And that's where the anxiety comes up. That middle child sometimes is like forgotten and like they're good, they're golden. They don't ever have to worry about anything. So then that's like that my caregivers are unavailable, right? So there's so many different dynamics, and it's like a dyad, and then it becomes enmeshed a relationship between the parents and then the kids, and
Mhm.
that's when you have to grow up fast, and that's where that internal conflict of chaos and anxiety is building. It's crazy,
Yeah.
but it's so true.
It and I love it seems like this generation we're kind of doing away with the ways that we were taught. And like you keep saying no shade because it isn't. Because a lot of our families, they only did what they could with what they were given. And
Mm-hmm.
then a lot of times, even when they tried to, critique or fix or do things differently along the way, by the time it got to them, there was only so much changing that they could do because that's all anybody ever knew. So
Right.
now we're getting to like this line where we're just like, okay, and they always say the millennial is like the rebellious spirit, and I don't think it's really rebellion. I think it's we were observant. I think
Mm-hmm.
we kind of grew up in a time where we not only wherever you were as a child, we kind of came into a world of chaos. So it's like
Yes.
we kind of learned how to. I always say I put my poop waders on and I kind of just ride through it because I know it's always something about to happen. Like I grew up with a housing crash. Like I grew up with a terroristic attack and then war. I grew up with we can't afford anything where we have to go move with family and then we can live by ourselves. But my parents also had to work two jobs. Like the way that I was kind of ushered into this, chaos became a language of comfortability. When
Yeah.
it's not chaotic, I feel uncomfortable because then I'm looking over my shoulder like something's about to happen. Why would I ever
Yeah.
expect peace? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
just like building that understanding and then trying to put control in. It was like if I already know the outside world is crazy, if I'm already introduced to a chaotic sense of living, me trying to control what I think is small
Yeah.
seems like it's doable, but it's not. And then especially when you're coming into the aspect of surrender, that word that you brought up very quick, because it's just
I'm sorry.
like
It was
it
my
no,
soul.
but it needed to be said because not only are we driving the boat that way, you need to hit them with that because ultimately when we say yes to God, it comes with surrender. It's supposed
Mhm.
to anyway. But now that we're realizing that certain things that we have held on to try to keep control, to try to feel like we have some sense of direction on our own without bringing God in, this is where I needed you to come in because now that we see what the issue is, now that we're addressing it, now that we're calling it out by name, and now
Mhm.
that control is looped into so many other things, including anxiety, now is where I want you to come in again. And from a professional standpoint, how does control connect to anxiety?
So it can, so this way, right? Like, so if anyone's listening to this right now and they're like, I don't have control, I have anxiety. And the way it connects is if you can agree with this topic of saying like, yes, I am an overplanner. I overplan every single thing. I struggle when plans change, or I have such a hard time delegating because I want to make sure that everything is top tier. If you're like a manager, you're like, I'm not delegating. Like, I don't want my name to be bad on something, right? Or if you're feeling responsible for literally everyone's emotions or needing closure immediately, that's control, right? Like, you're irritated when things feel out of order. You're kind of like, not OCD, not this. Like, you don't have to label anything, but this is a space where you're operating in control. And this is where control and anxiety are literally dancing together. They're like anxiety and control are like uncute little cousins. It's like, hey, we're related, but we really don't want to be related, but we actually work really well together. And
Yeah.
then that comes up. So that's with understanding, like, it doesn't always look like control by any means. It can look like being on top of things. It can be like, I'm the strong one, like, I got this. But typically, internally, your body is screaming, and that's when anxiety and control are meeting together. And that is when someone's operating out of control or in control.
And my thing is, okay, so not only did you do what I needed you to do, but then I realized that you kind of brought up the roots before too,
Mm-hmm.
because not only do we understand now how those two connect, you
Mm-hmm.
kind of touched on what the like causes are. So I had in my notes just from my little my little conversation with God, it was it hits with trauma, instability. You said abandonment
Mm-hmm.
before, and then the lack of safety. And it's like
Yeah.
when life feels unpredictable, control becomes your way of creating some type of safety.
Yeah.
And then we don't even know what kind of doorway that opens up to other things. That's why those two cute little cousins, they act like they not related, but they go together.
Girl,
That's
best
where the
friends.
doorway opens. Like, that's literally like if I feel the need or I've had this learned behavior, because a lot of the stuff that I'm realizing I have learned from watching and observing and
Mm-hmm.
seeing, because in my eyes, I've watched the women in my family do this my entire life, and they're surviving. They look okay. But now as I've become an adult and there's more like dialogue, there's more like a deeper understanding because now that they see me in my walk and now that they're seeing how like I guess, outward I am, because I'm just like, I love testimony. Like, testimony part of service at my church is my favorite, because how do people know what you've been through? How do people know the tangibleness of freedom, of being healed, of a miracle, of God working in your life, if you don't share it? And
Mhm.
like you said, we grew up in a sense of what happens in the house stays in the house. You don't
Mhm.
tell your business, you don't say nothing, because they're always going to use it against you. But haha, funny joke is on you. I'm gonna use it against me before you use it on me, because I'm gonna tell it myself. Because at
And
least I know I'm telling it the right way.
exactly, right? And that's where that control comes into place.
Hmm. And
Exactly.
oh, this is so good. This is so good. I
So
feel
wait,
like
wait, Erica, you mentioned something. You said like most of the women in my family or in my life are surviving, right? And I even see that too in my life, and I even see myself, and I even have to catch myself too. But okay, Britt, you're literally just coasting. You're surviving. But I think that's when it comes into play of like boundaries and then control. Like, what am
mhm,
I going to do today to take care of myself? And that's a boundary that I have to give to myself and give to also like when I pray and I'm surrendering to God, I'm like, God, how am I going to take care of myself, but also take care of my family? Because my family is so important, but I catch myself spiraling in this thing of anxiety and control. So that boundary that I try to put down, and I literally just wrote this on my paper. Boundary, what will I do to take care of myself? Trying to manage and control would be I'm trying to manage what others do to feel okay because I don't want to just do something just to
mhm,
people please, right? So the boundary is if this continues, I'm going to step away. So if I see myself in this place of saying, all right, I'm doing all these things for my kids and I feel my body getting sick and I'm not giving my time to God where I need to give it to,
mhm,
I need to detach myself from this. I need to step away and I'm going to surrender. God, how can I make this not as chaotic? How can I
yeah,
allow my anxiety not to be present? And that's another thing that I try to bring into therapy is what is a boundary for you? And if we rephrase and we rename a boundary, Erica, like, because we don't want to be these women who are just surviving like our moms, right? Or our aunties. We want to make sure that we're more than that, right? We can boldly say, like, I am a woman that is strong and I'm healthy so
mhm,
that that's going to be a space of safety. That boundary is going to create a more of an intrinsic rule for us to say, like, I'm going to love myself unconditionally instead of naming it, oh, this is a boundary. This is my rule that I'm
mhm,
making up for myself because I know that if I break a rule outside of my moral compass, that I can go to jail. Why would I want to go to jail in my own self? Right? Like, I want that continued love and presence of God. So I'm going to continue this way and have my boundaries for self. So that's what I think when you think of women surviving, like that
mhm.
just a different way, like understanding that we're not just surviving, we're being present in ourselves and we're not allowing control and anxiety to overcompensate, so we have those boundaries or intrinsic rules.
So now, because you're just it, like when you speak, it just it echoes in my ears, and I'm like, oh, Erica, there's your chance. Like, like there, like I love, like I said, not just the appointed nature and time of things of God, but
Mhm.
I have been noticing as I've been doing my walk, I have been encompassed and surrounded by individuals that give me hope. Like, you know what I mean? And granted, we have not been able to link the way that I would love to be able to, but it just seems like even when I do get to see you, it gives me a chance to say, okay, I am being surrounded by people that are giving me a direction. I had did like a episode about like accountability.
Mhm.
And then I'm telling people, if I want to change, if I want to be Christ-like, if I want to be healed, if I want to be better, I have to surround myself with people who are also not only striving, but have gotten to certain levels in their life ahead of me to be able to coach me, to show me that there is a way. It might not be the exact way, but this is how it happened. So, can you tell me, how did you get to this point in your life? Like, you're, like I said, a licensed therapist. You talk to people who are believers, non-believers. But how do you stay rooted in God, knowing all that you do? And how did you get to this point in your life, being able to surrender, like you said?
Wow, that's a heavy question, right? Because I feel like I've always been very rooted in my faith, rooted in my belief and knowing that God is my father, right? Like knowing that this is where I stand and I'm firm in this foundation. I believe that it's very interesting. I think that once I had my child, like had my son, and with little bit of complications that we had, I felt like I had to focus more on like, all right, God, I can't control this. And then
Mhm.
that's when I started speaking very like just like matter of fact to God. Like, all right, God, like, what you doing here? Is this supposed to be where I'm supposed to be? Like, am I supposed to have this child? Because I had a miscarriage before, right? So understanding that everything can't go as planned because this is where this anxiety and control is coming up. Like I was writing down all my things. I wanted to be married at this time. I wanted to have kids at this time. I wanted to have this. God was like, jokes on you, Brit. Like, let me, and that's when I had to surrender, right? And I think this is where surrendering comes into. And I have a praying mommy, right? Like my mom laid her hands on my body, and like she said, "This child is going to be dot dot dot." She
Mhm.
prayed. She already surrendered and gave him up to Christ. So I'm like, what am I waiting for, right? So I believe that at that stage of my life, and I believe it happened other places, but I think this is the most prevalent. It was when my son was in my womb. And I was like, all right, God, if this child is supposed to be here in this world, let him and let me be the mommy. Let me allow myself to release this anxiety and control because I wanted to be that best person for him. And I think also, Erica, that it came to the place of also where I knew that I couldn't allow outside noise to disturb my peace. Like
Yeah.
it couldn't disturb my peace. It couldn't disturb who I am. It couldn't disturb that my place on this earth in this world was to be exactly where I am today. And that's what I feel like I'm like surrendering. Like, all right, God, you got this. I write in my journal, like, yeah, God, this is what I want. He's like, all right, let me
Mhm.
see. But that's also kind of like, again, if we think about control and anxiety, I can't control everything. I can tell God what I want. I
Yeah.
can pray about it. I can fast about it, but it's also up to my God. I call him my man G. Like, you got me. You know what I mean? So, like,
I think because I say Big G all the time. I'm like, all right, Big G, like, I don't know what you got going on. And I think that's the beauty of relationship. Like, there is a reverence there, but if you can't talk to him, like how we talk to each other, how you talk to your homegirl, like how you talk to one of your, like, what are you doing? Like, because you know what I mean? Like, yes, there is a fear of the Lord there. But just
yeah.
like you said, and the crazy thing is, your surrender moment kind of came like mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pregnant with Preston, and then before Preston, I had a ruptured tube ectopic pregnancy, two more ectopic pregnancies after that. I didn't think I could have kids. So by the time they told me that, no, this is a viable pregnancy, I said, God, this is you. Like, like it would, like you was with me the whole time, but I was like, this is you.
Mm-hmm.
And from the time I was pregnant with her to the time she came out to the time that she progressed, I'm like, Lord, this is your child. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you fashioned this child for me to lead. What do I need to do? And then I realized not only I believed in God, but the surrender part was very hard. Like I said, I had even quoted myself in my devotional. I'm the Olivia Pope of my family.
I can see
Like,
that.
I am the fixer. I am the doer. I do the grunt work. I do the dirty work. Don't ask me. I won't tell you. Just know it's handled. Like, you know what I mean? I am that person.
Yep.
And when I started really trying to like get into like this groove, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm moving forward in God, but I feel like there's some kind of wall. Why do I feel like I'm not going past this point? And I'm ramming my head up against this wall. I'm trying to get through it. And I'm like, what's happening? He's like, you're not surrendering. I'm like, "What you
Mm-hmm.
mean?" And then every week after that, I heard that, I had my pastor or my bishop coming up to like, "Erica, you gotta leave it at the altar. Erica, you gotta leave it there. Erica, you gotta give it up." And I'm like, "What you mean? I gave him me. I told him use me." I was like, "What else is it?" But then I didn't realize how much stuff I stored, how much stuff I put in hiding places on the inside. And I'm like, when God started asking me to surrender, it felt uncomfortable. But it wasn't that the surrender was unsafe. It was because surrender started to expose the anxiety I had with
Yes.
control. Like, it was like, oh, that's still in there. I didn't know I was still carrying that. Like, oh, in this catacomb where
Mm-hmm.
this started being surfaced, I started realizing all of the things that I was stuffing away and then
Mm-hmm.
telling God to use me. Oh God, fill me up. But he's like, you still got to get stuff out. you still have to surrender this stuff to me. So then it became, well, how is this showing up in my spiritual walk? Like,
Mhm.
how else am I thinking I'm okay? I'm walking around, but I'm still wounded. I'm still not all the way, healed or letting stuff go. And it was like I was praying, but I was still worried about stuff.
Mhm.
Like I'm saying, God, I need you to handle this. But then as soon as I hang up that phone call, I'm going out there and I'm trying to help him along. So I was like, okay, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I was like, I'm still trying to force outcomes after I'm
Mhm.
trying to give it to him. And it's like, well, if I just laid it down on the altar, I basically just went back there and picked it up, put it back in my pocket, and I was like, I'll put that back later. I think I can still maneuver, but then I'm
Mhm.
still struggling with the timing of it all.
Yeah. So, Erica, I just want to kind of like add a little razzle dazzle on that, right? Like, so
Mhm.
when you mentioned kind of like, all right, God, like, well, I'm like, you were talking to your pastor and he was like, I've given all of me, like, I'm here, like, whatever, right? But not understanding what part of that anxiety is or where it is and like unpacking it. This is
Mhm.
where EMDR comes in. And that's also kind of what I focus on within like in therapy. And so many people think of EMDR as like, oh no, what is this hocus pocus type of stuff? But really, all you're doing is tapping. And tapping into your intrinsic self, right? Like I am able to just help clients focus on their processes and kind of like what they're thinking and what happened in the past. Sometimes we pack up stuff so tightly, as you just mentioned, right? It was like, well, what am I still working on? Like, oh, this is anxiety, but we never know why we pull at our hair sometimes. And then as we do the reprocessing and the weaving inside in and out of like the EMDR, that's when we're able to realize, oh, that's when I was 6 and I packed that trauma away and I was abused, or I saw this happen to my mom. That's why I'm so anxious. And that's what EMDR is. And that's also kind of like where you can marry faith and marry this surrendering and marrying God and my man G. Like you're marrying it all together because you're like, God, now I understand why I'm like this. Now I can unpack and I can surrender it to you. And that's why I do agree with you, right? Like mental health and just faith, like they marry so well together. So
Yeah,
well together.
because it gives you an understanding. And there is, like, I'll always bring up, the Lord will use whatever it is to and make it good. It doesn't matter what you've been through, what happened to you. When you finally allow him to use it for your good, you'll see, even though it happened, it made me this, or it created a sense of this, or it built me closer to my purpose or my assignment or my calling this way.
Mm-hmm.
And like, as I'm really moving and I'm really becoming, like, understanding, like, I had to, like, this whole devotional was me doing all that work you just said. It was
Mm-hmm.
really him sitting me down for a year and having me go into myself and realizing things that I stored, that I packed away, things that I tried to erase out my mind or recreate different memories because of the trauma or the response or how I started to integrate it into my life. And I'm sitting here wondering why I feel so out of place. I feel so outside of myself. Like, who is this person I'm looking at in the mirror? And it was because he was literally unpacking me,
Yep.
and I started realizing a lot of the things that I do, that I say, that how I operate. I was like, my God, this wasn't even your original design, but now you're going to use it for your glory. And it
Yeah.
was like, okay, so now that I know, one, I'm not fully surrendering, now that I'm seeing the things that I am not trying to give out of shame, or I think I can still handle it, I really had to break myself down. I was like, I can't surrender and control at the same time. I
No.
can't surrender and not allow the exposure to convict me either. Because now
Mm-hmm.
that I am having people come to me, or now I'm using this platform, and now I'm bringing in, people of like-mindedness like yourself. And even right now, you talking, I'm feeling convicted because I'm like, oh, well, that's still in there. Darn, she don't brought that up. Now I gotta journal about that, because what this is a continuous walk.
It is.
There is no finish line. Finish
Mm-mm.
line is when the Lord cracks the sky, the dead rise first, and we all go to that new world. Like, that's the finish line. While we are here, we have to realize, one, that it's a continuous walk to becoming who God wants you to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's going to be unlearning things that you've known your entire life. Because
Yes.
what we are noticing now is there is like a call out culture where it's like most of us have a respect and an understanding like, okay, we understand that y'all did what y'all could do with what y'all had, everything that y'all learned. I'm gonna chew the meat and I'm gonna spit the bones and I'm gonna take what I need, but I'm gonna
Yep.
have to give you back the rest because that does not apply to me. But then there's also a sense of what we're realizing religion did in structure, we are
Mhm.
now undoing with the relationship aspect. And it's like the religious part is the structure to keep us in place, to keep us accountable, to keep us all striving in one mind is how it's supposed to be. But the relationship is where it starts. I
Yeah.
can't be in this relationship with God and feel offended. I can't feel off put. I can't feel like this does not apply to me. Because honestly, I feel like another thing that we do is we justify the things that happen because we feel like we're victims or we feel like we have this entitlement to not heal or be better or good. Like, I don't want to say get over it because sometimes it does take time, but allowing the relationship to come in to surface to show you what you need to work on, this
Mhm.
kind of exposure is showing you what God wants to heal. Like, I don't know if I spun the web the right way, but
Yeah. No, no, go ahead. Like, no, you're just right on point. I'm agreeing with you. I'm like, okay, all right, minister. Yes.
and but it's like because
Yeah.
right now I'm feeling like a download happening at the same time, and I'm trying to like output it in a sense that it stays on track. But the healing journey is really just the beginning.
Yes.
And then while we're healing, we have to use it in testimony because we don't just do it in a spiritual sense. You now do it in a professional sense where you're taking everything that you know, you've learned more, you've researched more, you've gone to school, you've gotten the certs, but now you're downloading it and then you're outputting it in your everyday life at work. And then you're going home and you're outputting it to your children and your husband, and then you're
Mhm.
outputting it to the people that you come across because you even output it on me in our first interaction. And
Mhm.
it might have just seemed like a conversation between two parents with an incident, but it was like even your whole being was like, what she got going on? Because I kind of just, but then the Lord started allowing us to talk more and you're like, oh no, I'm a believer, and oh no, I do this, and I'm like, you can do both. And then it
Mhm.
made sense. So
Mhm.
that's where we're coming into this now, and it's just like you've gone through your part, I've gone through my part. We're coming together. So now our listeners are sitting
Mhm.
here, and now not only can they pinpoint, you're starting to dig into like, don't think this isn't about you because it also shows up like this. But
Mhm.
now we're going to give you the tidbits. So right now, you
Mhm.
brought up a beautiful word to me, and I'm starting to learn it. I'm starting to implement it. Boundaries.
Oh yeah,
Can
girl.
you help us differentiate between healthy boundaries from control?
Yeah, so like we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, right? Like a healthy boundary is a rule that you create for yourself. Like it's a rule that you don't want to break and you don't want anyone else to break it. Like because if we were to pull ourselves outside of that rule, say we're driving in the car and you see a stop sign. That stop sign means you really got to come to a stop. And if a police officer is sitting right there across, are you going to stop or are you going to keep on going? And it depends. Like, do you want to go to jail? Do you want a ticket? What do you want to do? And you know you're going to stop so you can avoid it. And that's what that internal boundary is for you too. Like it's creating those internal rules or internal kind of like morals for yourself to say, I know that I want healthy friendships. So I know that I am going to create a healthy space of peace for me. And I'm not going to allow people to just gossip around me. I'm not going to allow someone that is just nasty to be in my presence. And that's a boundary. And that's a healthy boundary. Control would look like, I don't gotta deal with this. This is just not what I want. Or you're over planning it. Like, I'm gonna do this, and you're very rigid with it. But if you
Mhm.
give yourself those moments just to breathe, pause instead of reacting and starting small and not releasing everything at once or regulate your body and understanding that, okay, I don't have to solve this right now, but I can be okay even if I know that this is uncertain. and I know that I can create this internal boundary just for myself because
Mhm.
this is who is important right now. Like that's all we have right now is ourselves,
Right.
right?
And
So that's
it I think what you just said is also important when it comes to stewardship. That was another
mhm.
conversation I had had. And boundaries, it sounds like a curse word. Saying no to
Mm,
some people sounds like a curse word. But we don't know how important it is to not only implement the healthy
oh,
boundaries.
I,
What I was getting into was
mhm,
there is an importance of not only understanding what it is that we need to do to move forward, but it creates a sense of stewardship. We
mhm,
have to take care of not only what God created, but we also
yeah,
have to take care of ourselves because we have to be here for others.
mhm,
We are literally his like we're his footmen, we're his soldiers, and if we aren't taking care of ourselves by saying the no's, by creating the healthy boundaries, by making sure that we're here to do what he needs us to do, we're not doing it right. Right.
agreed. Mhm,
And it's beautiful because I'm happy that I get to meet people like yourself
mm,
who can show me and help me understand that yes, this is a clinical thing. This is something that is diagnosed. This is something that is, you know, an occurrence that happens. But then you give me that layer of the spirit where it's like, but God is above that.
mhm,
Your
yeah,
surrender is important because not only will it take something that is diagnosable and he can give you a sense of peace, he can give you a sense of calm, but then he can also send me people like you who can help me balance both. Like,
yeah.
and I hope I'm saying it right. I hope I'm saying
You are.
it right.
You are. And so Erica, I think what I hear you saying too is kind of letting go of control in a space of knowing that it's going to feel unfamiliar, right? Knowing that
Mhm.
people are going to life and it's going to be the most randomest times, but also allowing yourself to be present in the space of exploring things that feel uncomfy to you,
Yes.
exploring mental health. Exploring therapy, exploring the option to just go. I always tell clients whenever they come to me for the first time, I just want you to date me for like 5 sessions because dating is like you're getting to know me, you're getting to know what therapy is like. We're doing a new dance. You might be learning how to tango, you might learn how to do the dance like so it's, so it might be learning how to do a dance that you learned in New York, like whatever. You're learning a
Mhm.
new date and that's what dating and that's what therapy is like. So I always ask clients, just give me 5 sessions, court me for a little bit. Let me
Yep.
court you. Let me get to know each other. Let me get to know your most inner things. Let me get to know like, if anxiety is present or if you're dealing with ways of not knowing how to delegate or you control too much, right? Because anxiety it will increase, especially when you're doing something uncomfortable. And then your
Mhm.
nervous system will start to feel exposed. And letting go of control doesn't feel peaceful at first. It feels so unfamiliar. And I think that's the biggest thing too. Whenever a client comes into therapy, I even express to them, yo, therapy's going to feel so uncomfortable. You're going to want to leave me. You're going to probably ghost me. But just know that when you ghost me after 2 sessions, it's going to be a fee. You don't want to pay that, right? So understanding that you have to understand that you're here for a reason if this is what you're ready to do. And you mentioned too also like healing isn't something that you're just going to heal and be like, yep, I'm good today. I don't need this no more. But healing literally it keeps moving upward. Like you're going to continue to go on this roller coaster of ebbs and flows, ups and down. But the way that you address the situation is the way to show up for yourself and say, wow, I am actually healing or I'm growing. Like hope is like the premise I feel of therapy. And also having hope and faith in God is also where I stand too, right? So
Right.
it just marries so beautifully together.
And I love how you just walked me into so the scripture that I had anchored for this because the day 5 in the devotional is called escaping the cycle of anxiety. And the
Mm,
scripture verse that I had was Philippians 4 6 through 7. And it says, be
mhm,
anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of
mm,
God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. And
mhm,
God became my therapist for a minute. Like it was unpacking. It was uncomfortable because what I know about therapy is, like you said, I had to date a few of them. I had to
Mm-hmm.
date a few of them, but then when I finally felt one that I felt comfortable with, she had a way of bringing stuff to the surface for me to say, "Oh, okay." And I
Mm-hmm.
told her a few times, I was like, I don't like you, right? And she's like, you don't like me, but you'll appreciate the work that we're doing later. And I didn't
Yeah.
realize how much even that set me up to talk to God again. Because
Mm-hmm.
what I had to realize was, even though sometimes he brings up stuff and I'm like, sir, I don't like you right now. Like, why would you ever bring this back up when I thought I dealt with that? It made me realize that the uncomfortable nature means that the healing is taking place. Even when we have like a
Back.
cut or a scratch or a broken bone, the pain is an indication that healing is happening.
Right?
And even me expressing, I don't like you right now, but I get what you're doing. I'm picking up what you're putting down. That's the start.
Right?
Because when we start getting into releasing control, especially in the realm of the spirit, like with God, it's like I have to trust Him, but then I have to also release the outcome expectation. And it's hard, but it's just like I can't say, all right, I see what you're doing there, but then I don't trust why he's doing it. And then I have to
Mm-hmm.
realize that I have to stop over carrying because I can't be surfaced. I can't go to him and lay it all out there. I can't put it on the altar, but then pick other stuff up at the same time, because then I'm just going to
Right.
have to keep unpacking, and then it's just a overwhelming experience in that nature. Now when I say, God, this is where I'm at, I'm unpacking,
Mm-hmm.
you're my therapist, I'm on the chair, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm dealing with, this is what I didn't realize was there until you brought this up, or you brought this person back in my face and I realized I still don't like them and I'm trying to figure out what. This is where we start to say, okay, I have to have obedience without having full clarity. I have to trust you in a realm or an aspect that what you're doing, how you're doing it is all going to work out for my good. And then the beauty of that passage, I have had things that would trigger me in seconds become peaceful. And I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how I'm sitting here in your face when I really just want to punch it. But I just don't feel that way right now because I have finally given it up. Like when I started getting a taste of what true surrender felt like and how
Mm-hmm.
unbothered I felt and
Right?
how weightless I felt, I was like, that's what you're talking about, the peace that surpasses all understanding. And then when I start feeling those inklings of what used to be anxiety and control, I immediately go to, all right, God, I'm about to pick it up again. I don't know what you need to do, but take it. And I
Mm-hmm.
just I try to do that in my first instant just to see if I'm fully like getting in there. And sometimes I still slip, but that's the beauty of the journey. The grace and the mercy is sufficient as long as he sees that I'm trying to move forward. So even if I pick it up, I'm like, okay, God, my bad. Old habits die hard, you
Yeah.
can have it back now. But it's like that constant understanding that trusting God means being okay not knowing everything. It's a struggle, but once
It
you get to that
is.
little piece of peace and it actually
Yeah.
works that one time, you're like, been missing out on this the whole time. What you mean?
Right? Right? But I think that's also just a gentle reminder, like God is holding us all together. And I
Hmm.
think that is part when we started off by expressing surrendering, right? It is not about losing control at all. It's just shifting who you trust to be in control. Like we don't want to be in control through all of it. And it's also, Erica, you said too, like I might pick something up again, but that's not about failure. Like you're not failing by any means. More than anything is like, okay, God, like I learned my lesson. Like I know that that stove is hot. I touched it. Nah, I might have messed up, but okay, like, all right, let me heal it again. And I think that's the
Hmm.
beauty of just having like trauma responses, learning what you need to work on, but more than anything, trusting my man G. Right. And that's like, that's the beauty of this whole tango and dance and love of Christ and also mental health. It's beautiful.
It's amazing. And it's
It is.
it I think, and it's so tailored to you. Like, even though we believe in community and sharing our stories, that is like what you said, to give hope. Like, it doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
what background you come from, what experiences you have. Some of us might meet up at the same places. Some of us might run parallel. Some of us might not even have the same experience. But if you can hear a story and you can see how God is still working in their lives, how He's continuously
Yeah.
working in your life, then it just gives that hope and that sense of this is tangible. This is not just for
Yeah.
specific people, this is for everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
before we wrap up, because y'all,
Mm-hmm.
I have a booked and busy woman of God, so I'm not trying to keep her too long, but she will be back. I don't know if she knows this or not, but um I want to start by saying again, control is not a spiritual gift. We have to
Mm-mm.
stop using control as a means of, instead of God, or God, let me help you out while we're in our
Mm-hmm.
journey. That is not what we're doing, because we have heard this word over and over and over again from this beautiful woman of God. Surrender
Mm-hmm.
means, what did you say? And in the way that you spun that thing, you said it's a shift for you to understand who's in control,
Yeah.
and
It's
you're
about shifting.
putting,
Yep.
go ahead,
It's
say it
about
again, say
shifting
it again.
about shifting who you trust to be in control. It's not you to hold on to, right? So surrendering isn't about losing control. It's literally about shifting who you trust to be in control. So God is not asking us to surrender to increase anxiety and all that mess. He's using us to surrender to kind of like reveal where anxiety already exists and to be healed. So that's what
That's a
surrendering
bar.
is.
That is a bar. I swear, I'm writing that down somewhere. I gotta put it somewhere, because when I say the hair on the back of my neck stood up when you said that, I was like, my God, she
Mhm.
in here preaching. Because, and you even said you don't have to hold everything together because God already is. Like, we do
Yeah.
not have to hold it all together. God is holding us together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was so good. I want
Yeah.
you, before we leave, you can do a last minute word of encouragement, but please tell everybody where they can find you for Essence Wellness Counseling and the services that you also offer.
Yeah. So first, I want to give my gratitude to you, Erica, for allowing me to be on this platform. I don't feel like this position that I'm in, it just came just like, oh yeah, Britt, be a therapist. I really feel like it took time to get here, right? And I believe it took me having my child, having my children, to finally feel like, all right, this is my purpose, right? This is what I'm supposed to do. So I think it's such a beautiful thing that you saw that in me, and like we had that amazing connection first, like when we first met, and I'm always supporting another Black woman. And I'm so glad that you're here on this platform because you are just such a unicorn. So thank you for letting me be here. And where you can find me and also my co-founder, Nichelle, we are Essence Wellness Counseling. You can find us at myessencewellnesscounseling.com. We're also on TikTok, Facebook, and also Instagram, and it's Essence Wellness Counseling. And we do have openings, and we also, Nichelle is a certified yogi, and I am also EMDR trained. So I am also working through EMDR clients and things like that. So if anyone is looking to reprocess and understand any other underlying trauma, that's what we're here for. We also do a lot of relationship therapy, trauma, any sort of boundary kind of trauma therapy. That's what we're here for.
I love it. And like I said, this is a platform where we believe in therapy, we believe in counseling, but we also believe in God at the same time. So I will have all of her information. I will have the direct link to the website at the bottom of whatever description you're looking at, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I will make sure, even on social media platforms, y'all will be able to get to them. I have been in and out of their website. I definitely love what they're doing. Definitely follow them on TikTok because they're little tidbits that they both be dropping. I be in here running around in circles because I definitely love the work that you two are doing. I love how transparent you both are, how y'all break stuff down. Like, I'm a person where I can understand the dictionary words, but they just break it down in a means of I can understand it and I feel it, and they are worth the follow. They are worth the mention, and they are definitely worth the promotion. So if y'all need them, I will get y'all in touch with them. And as I always say at the end of every episode, I love all of y'all. I am here. I am walking with you. If I don't know the answer, I will get you the answer. And if I can't get the answer, I will direct y'all to whoever can get y'all the answer. Y'all can meet me here on the podcast at YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, like I had mentioned. Check into the Stoop, www.thelobpodcast.com, where we can definitely fellowship. There is a sense of community, get into our group conversations that we have on there. And as always, please hit me up, livingovercomingbecoming@gmail.com. But don't forget to pick up y'all copy of this Women and Men of God, an Overcomer's Guide to Becoming. If y'all like the conversation that we had today, you can have that conversation with yourself and the Lord for a 30-day journey. And like I said, I do not cap y'all at 30 days. It could take out 30 weeks. It could take out 30 years. Just do the work, y'all. The Lord needs us. He needs us healed. He needs us ready, because the kingdom is nigh. So we got to get to work. I love all of y'all, and I will see y'all again next week for another episode. Bye.